Good morning, good afternoon, good day to my friends, particularly my friends who are struggling around the world to study IELTS. Have you ever felt that the part 2 of the speaking exam, where you have to talk by yourself and the examiner just sits there and stares at you, is pretty scary? Okay, it needn't be if you know what you're doing. And I'm going to show you how to do in this short lesson exactly what you need to do to score very well in part 2 speaking. This lesson is probably only going to be of use to people who are actually doing or considering doing IELTS. Alright, let me just get rid of my beautiful face here so that we can concentrate on what's going on here. Okay, in part 2 of the IELTS speaking exam, you will be given a little card. You must talk for up to 2 minutes on the topic that's on the card, and the examiner will not speak to you during this time. Well, he might say, but he won't engage in conversation. You will have 1 minute to prepare your talk, and it's very important you use that time to prepare your talk very effectively. Planning your talk and referring to your notes as you talk is the best way to score well. Yes, you can refer to your notes. The examiner, if he sees you making notes and then referring to them, will know that you are well organized. The question will generally ask several small questions, and the trick is that you must address each one to get a good score. But there are a couple of other tricks that you need to know. But this is easy when you know how. And by the end of this lesson, you will know how to do this. So let's have a look. Here is a fairly typical sort of a question that might be asked in your IELTS exam. Describe a place where you have lived in that you particularly liked. You should say when you lived there, who you lived with, what was most memorable about this place, and explain why you liked it so much. Okay, now let's not rush off too quickly, but let's think about how we're going to prepare ourselves for this lesson. The examiner will give you this card. He'll also tell you that he's going to give you a piece of paper and a pencil, and he'll tell you all about how that you have 1 minute to prepare your answer, and then you will have up to 2 minutes to talk. This is very important to think about the timing. You must practice this so that you talk for almost 2 minutes. Not 2 minutes and 15 seconds, not 1 minute and 10 seconds, no. 1 minute, 50 seconds, or thereabouts. Now, if you go 2 minutes and 5 seconds, you're not going to get hanged. You're not going to be executed. So let's think about what we have to say. We look at this and we see, okay, how many things are there that I must talk about? Well, there's more than you think. Okay. First of all, we have to make sure that we talk about the things that are shown on this card. Well, it's pretty obvious we're going to have to talk about the place. Yes? If we don't say what the place is, we're missing the whole point. And we have to talk about when, we have to talk about who, and we have to talk about what was memorable and why. So, notice the tense used in this question. It's all in the past tense. So our answer, we have to be prepared to speak in the past tense. If the question asked about a place that you will live in the future, then we have to be talking about future tense. Or if it says a place that you are living in, then it has to be in the present tense, probably the present continuous in some cases. So we have to be aware of the tense. Now, we know that we have to talk about the place. We have to talk about when we lived there. So the place, when, who, what, and why. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you've got it. You have to talk about, you have to have 5 steps. If there are 5 steps in the question, the examiner is listening for, waiting for, ready to pounce. If you don't talk about 7 things. 5 things are on the card, but there's 2 more things that you must have in your answer. Okay, so what are they? Very interesting question. What are they? All right, let's have a look. Well, the very first thing we have to do is we have to let the examiner know that we understand the question. So just like in a writing exam where we say, okay, tell the examiner what you're going to tell him, and then use 3 paragraphs to tell him, and then 1 paragraph to tell him what you just told him, we have to do the same thing with this. This is like a business presentation, if you like. Okay, so we have to say something like, let's keep it pretty simple. I want to tell you about a place I lived that I really enjoyed. So we have to tell what we're going to talk about. That way the examiner says, this person knows what the subject is, knows what he or she has to talk about. So, I want to tell you about blah, blah, blah. We can use other expressions here and you will develop some of your own. I would probably say, if it was me, I would probably say, I have a special task to talk about a location where I resided that I really liked. Do you notice, just like in the writing for part 2, I've rephrased the question using different words. Now, we don't have to have a huge vocabulary to do this. Just know a few. Just remember, the examiner talks to you for a total of 15 minutes maximum. He doesn't know that you don't know any further vocabulary. So find some vocabulary you're comfortable with and develop it until you're happy with it. Okay, so I start off by introducing. I want to tell you about. My task today is, let me tell you about, I will talk about, I hope you're interested in, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, we know we're going to have to say that little bit there, right? But now here's where we use the pencil and paper that we've been given. Now get into it straight away. Don't muck around. Make your plan immediately. I personally like to use mind maps because I'm a military type thinker. That comes from years of being involved with military type things, I guess. But anyway, some people make a list. Some people scribble everywhere, but so long as you understand the notes, that's all that matters. The examiner doesn't look at your notes, and in fact your notes are destroyed after the exam. So whatever you write on it doesn't matter. You can write in your own native language, you can write in English, you can write in Martian language if you happen to know it. Okay, so at the center of the whole thing I will put place. Okay, so I'm looking for something here. Yes, I've got it. I've got what I'm looking for. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put in the middle of my paper, place. I know I have to talk about a place. Okay, and now the next thing I know I have to talk about is going to be who. Now these are not necessarily in the order that we see them. It's obvious they're all covered. Then I know I have to talk about when. Then I have to talk about, well, I put memorable, you might put what. And then I will put why I liked it. Now that's all very good. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did say there's 7 steps. Well, the 7th step is to wrap the whole thing up. That means a conclusion. And we will come to that in just a moment. Now, if I just talked about who, when, place, memorable, why I liked it, it would be a pretty short thing, you know. I lived in a small town called Kafibbalabubble. I lived there with my mum in 1976. It was memorable because it was hot. I liked it because I liked hot weather. Thank you, goodbye. Boring, right? And you won't score well. The examiner needs to see that you're going to develop your talk. Now, remember, you have 1 minute to write all this. You just write down anything that you think is connected with this thing. So I'm going to talk about the place. I might say in what country it came from. I might say where in that country it was. When? Remember, you don't have to say, from the 3rd of September 1976 to the 14th of February 1989. No, just at a time, during my childhood, when I went to school, whatever. And okay, childhood. Oh, yes, let's talk about going to school. Remember, the more you put here, the more you're going to have to talk about. You don't have to talk about everything that you write here, of course. Okay, who? All right, let's say I went there with my parents. Let's say something more about my parents. They're retired. And I lived there with my little brother. What about my brother? Okay, he's an engineer. You see how I'm fleshing out this talk? I'm trying to make it more interesting by adding bits and pieces that might be of interest. Why did I remember it? Oh, it was a double-story house and had a really long staircase. And why do I remember that? I was little and I was afraid I was going to fall down there. Oh, yes, okay, that's right. My father made a swing outside on an apple tree. Yeah, I remember that very well now. That's why it's memorable. Yeah, my father made the swing. And why did I like it? Well, it had really happy memories. I played with my friends there a lot. Okay. All very, very good so far. So now we've got a complete story. Let's see how it all fits together, shall we? But don't forget, we also have to wrap it up. So that's, something like this. You have to use your own words. Well, that's my little story about a place I really like living in. And thanks for listening. That way the examiner knows it's over. So what have we done? We've told the examiner what we're going to tell him. We've told him. And then we told him what we just told him about. The perfect way to make a good score. Now, we just have to make sure that we can use reasonable vocabulary. We can string it all together. Okay, now let me see how I would answer this. This is my little mind map. Okay, I've made this little mind map and now the examiner says, okay, your preparation time is up. You may start talking. Now remember, I've got up to 2 minutes or thereabouts. Okay, so here's what I would say. Oh, thank you. I've been tasked today to talk about a place where I really like to live. The place was a little town called Laidley in Australia. It's located in a place called the Lockyer Valley, which is about 60 kilometres west of the state capital, Brisbane. It's a nice place, small town, and it's warm. I lived there during my childhood days when I went to school with some of my friends. That is, my primary school days. So that was quite a long time ago. I lived there with my parents. And my parents are now retired. My father was an electrical engineer and my mother was a police officer. And also with my little brother. I didn't particularly like him at the time, but he was my little brother. He's now an engineer and doing very well at his job. This place was very memorable for me because I was considerably small at the time. Why did I remember it so well? Well, there was a very long staircase up to the second story where the bedrooms were, and I was always afraid I would fall down this long staircase. And outside in the garden, my father had made a swing, which he put up in an apple tree for us to play in. That was an excellent thing. I really enjoyed that. Why did I like this place? Well, during childhood, everything seems to be simple, doesn't it? So I guess we could say that I had very happy memories there. And I played there quite often with my friends who I was allowed to invite over. We played on the swing that my father made in the apple tree quite a lot, and many other places. All right, well, I tell you what, that's my little story about the place that I really like living in, and I hope I haven't bored you with this story, but it means a lot to me. Thanks for listening. Okay, so the examiner goes around, thinks about it, and he says, yes, he opened up well. Yes, he talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things on there, and yes, he closed really well. His pronunciation was okay, I can understand it. He used some really impressive words, but not too impressive. Be careful, be careful. Don't use big words just because you can, okay? Use vocabulary that is easy to understand, not something that the examiner has to think, oh, he said anti-disestablishmentarianism. I wonder what that means. No, he just wants to hear everyday type language, but a little bit sophisticated if we can. And I will show you in other lessons how you can develop very simple English into much more sophisticated English in just a very simple way. All right, my friends, that is about it for now. I'm not going to go into great detail, but just as an idea, you might want to think about this question here and try it yourself. Record yourself, time yourself until you get it down to 2 minutes talking, 1 minute preparation. Talk about a dish you know how to cook. You should describe what the ingredients are, how it is cooked, other preparation you have to do, and say if you think this is an easy dish to cook or not, and why not. All right. So what I have to say now is thank you for watching this, and I hope you will be very successful in your IELTS speaking exam. If you would like to take lessons with me about this, have a look at the links that I put below this video and contact me. I'd be happy to help you. Hey, it's not for free, okay? So please don't think that I do my lessons for free. We have no cheap Charlies here. Okay, so thank you very much. Enjoy your day. Bye for now.